our nation has been about trusting people and avoiding centralized mechanics of control. And now the Democratic Party is all about the centralization of control. It's about surveillance. It's about controlling the flow of information. It's about top-down policies that are dictated by an oligarchy, and it's the opposite of democracy. And so I saw that firsthand, and I saw it in the Democratic Party alone. This is an irony. From the beginning, our polls were showing, and all the national polls were showing, or almost all of them, that I was hurting President Trump. And about 57% to 60% of the people who said they were going to vote for me said that if I left the race, they would switch their votes to Trump. So me being in the race was actually helping the Democrats. It was the Democrats who were trying to destroy my campaign, who were trying to, sue me.
Despite that.
Yeah, and it's very strange, right? Because I was helping them.
Yeah.
The Republican Party made no effort to keep me off the ballot. They didn't make efforts to discredit me. I mean, President Trump said, obligatory bad things about me, that I was a left-wing radical and all of this stuff, but they weren't mean-spirited things, and they weren't, there was no effort to keep me from speaking. The Democrats had me from speaking, and their allied media outlets. When Ross Perot ran in 1992, Jordan, he was 10 months in the race, and he had 34 interviews on the mainstream media, on ABC, NBC, CNN, et cetera.
Right.
In the 18 months that I spent in the race, I had 2 live interviews.
And how long were they?
What?
How long were the interviews?
Well, they weren't long. I mean, the longest one was with Aaron Burnett, which was, I think, 22 minutes, maybe 27 minutes.
Right. So you got about 40 minutes, maybe.
So they can't censor it. If you do a taped interview, they cut out whatever they don't want the public to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, I had 2 live interviews during 18 months compared to 34 interviews in 10 months that he had. Oh, I wasn't allowed to write letters to the editor, to the Washington Post, the New York Times, any of the mainstream, the sort of the Democratic periodicals, or publish editorials. None of them. I could not speak to that constituency. And, that's really why, I had to withdraw ultimately. And then they wouldn't let me on the debate stage.
Yeah, right.
And that was a collusion, too, because if you'd had the old debating commission, it was run by, originally for the first 15 years. My uncle had the first televised debate in 1960. And for 20 years after that, it was run by the League of Women Voters, which was independent, unbiased, and they had their own rules for letting people in. They would have let me in under their rules. And for the next, after 1980, it was run by the Commission on Presidential Debates, which was also unbiased. But President Biden and President Trump said, we're not going to use the Commission on Debates. Now we're going to make a separate deal with CNN. And we now know what happened in that. The New York Times was reported in their conversations where President Biden said, we are not going to be on the stage with Robert Kennedy. So we want you to keep him off. And if you have rules that let him on, then we're not coming. And for CNN, it's tens of millions of dollars for that debate. And then they're going to get
Why did Trump agree to that?
And they're going to get hundreds of millions. Well, he went back and forth on it. So the Republicans were not entirely good on that. But he did say publicly, I think he should be on the debate.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then the same thing happened with ABC, and they adopted rules that actually I was able to reach their metrics, their thresholds, but they still kept me off the debating stage. And that's illegal. Clearly, it's illegal under FEC rules. You're not allowed to deliberately exclude another candidate from the debate without neutral rules. And you're not allowed to develop rules specifically to keep somebody off the debate. Otherwise, the debate itself becomes an illegal campaign contribution. And,
right, of course.
And that's why, Trump's lawyer, went to jail for that. Right? So what they were doing was criminal. The FEC is an anemic organization that is half the commissioners Republican, half are Democrat. So none of them care about an independent, and so they just didn't act on it. About 3 months ago, President Biden and Kamala Harris gave this statement about Vladimir Putin, where they said they were ridiculing him because he had won the Russian election with, I think he got 88% of the vote. And they said, well, that's because he didn't let anybody else run against him and because he controlled the media. So, that's not really democracy. Well, that was the same system they put in place over here. So the whole thing was an irony. But, that is also the fact the Democratic Party abandoned democracy was another part of this inversion that has taken place. And that my wife saw that process firsthand. And I think, it changed some of her worldview and made her, she wasn't happy about me endorsing President Trump at all. And did not want me to do it, but it became, I think, tolerable for her, where she, and that was important for me to have her on board.
Right. So can I ask you a little bit about what I've seen as a major transformation on the Trump side? And it's allayed some of my concerns hypothetically about the manner in which he might conduct an administration.